yesterday, and he's frustrated. But it's funny, like when you watch certain quarterbacks in this league, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Desmond Ridder, your eyes tell you that doesn't look right. But when you watch Justin Herbert or Caleb Williams struggle, you're like, no, it looks right. It's got to be the coach. It's like if you have a movie and there's a bunch of great actors in it and it gets heavily promoted and it has a major studio behind it and it bombs, it's probably a script and director issue, right? Like that's the problem. You know it should work because you've had success. And so I think Caleb, I said this, I think he's better than Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield in terms of raw talent, and they're both crushing now because of the right fit. I always thought Caleb was more Andrew Luck. Not as good out of college, but Andrew Luck, where I thought he would just bulldoze obstacles. Now, I picked the Bears for fourth place, and I picked them to win 7 games, but it has not looked as good as I thought. Now I'll say this to defend him. He has not thrown an interception since Halloween. Okay. He has got right now, let me look it up, he's got more touchdown passes than Kyler Murray and Justin Herbert. He's got more passing yards than Jalen Hurts. So it doesn't look pretty, but he's not turning it over. He's throwing for yards. It's just he's got nothing to work with. And the difference is Andrew Luck was winning 11 games, but Andrew Luck's division wasn't nearly as good as this division. This division now is the best division in football. That's why they got to get the coaching thing right. But Caleb was talking this week about, like, losing really affects him.
Losing is it's one of those things that actually really affects me. It's tough, but I do have the understanding of where I'm at in my career and where I'll be at. And so having that understanding is important for me, myself internally, because internally it's tough. Internally, when tough times happen, just human nature is to do the opposite of what you're doing or what you've been doing or all these different things. So it's the toughest part is fighting yourself. And especially when there's tough times.
Yeah, I mean, he's what he's saying is you have to fight the self-doubt. But again, there's encouraging things here, but between the chaos with the Bears and how good this division is, you just can't have hiccups. I mean, you can't have a Hail Mary lose a game. You can't have a block kick lose a game. You can't have a coaching snafu lose a game. They should have 3 more wins. This team should have 3 more wins. And then you would look at him and go, oh, they got 7. This is a 7-win team. So it's especially for young quarterbacks. I was just talking tonight, the Broncos play the Chargers. Rookie quarterbacks on Thursday Night Football on the road are 9-25. It is hard when you're a rookie. This is all new stuff. This is all new territory. But if you're a Bear fan and you're bummed out, don't blame him for the Hail Mary. Don't blame him for the block kick. Don't blame him for the coaching snafu against Detroit. This team should have 3 more wins. And he's got more touchdowns and yards than a Kyler Murray, a Jalen Hurts, a Justin Herbert, and he hasn't thrown a pick since Halloween.
Yeah. I think Colin's doing a pretty good job of highlighting a lot of matters for many different season impact his development. And I think it will, but I think it will in a positive way. It's very obvious, and that's what Colin was kind of talking about earlier on, essentially the eye test, right? You're watching this game and like, what feels wrong? You can watch quarterbacks, because again, you can even watch backup quarterbacks, and you can see them succeed. You can see them throw for 310 yards and 3 touchdowns and whatever, and yet it still looks different. You're like, okay, that was a good game by insert backup quarterback, here, but like, it still doesn't feel right. You just sense it. You're just like, didn't look as smooth. It looked maybe a little bit fortunate. That one throw was a nice throw, but like, I don't know, man. How many times can he really make that throw? Or, well, yeah, that was a tough throw, but like, that catch is what really bailed them out. Or you could see the defense really gave them an extra 3 possessions, and multiple times they started on the 40. Like you can really kind of look at it, and you don't have to dissect it, much more deeper than that. And that's why Caleb Williams has really just been, it's kind of like a snow globe. It's just been kind of like you shake it and it's just like kind of like everything flying all over the place. And to me, it's very obvious that there's a lot to really, really like about Caleb and what you see. You can see that he has what it takes to be a legitimate bona fide starting quarterback in the NFL. You see the talent. you see the clutchness, you see the resilience, you see the mistakes. And this is the problem, because since they're not winning, and since this team has not done a good enough job to put him in a position to actually succeed, any of his mistakes now get heightened so much more than they normally would. And a perfect example of this, to kind of continue with what Colin was talking about, rookie quarterbacks, look at Bo Nix or Jaden Daniels. They had a couple bad games, or Bo Nix even just last game when he threw 3 interceptions. You were able to kind of justify it or sweep it under the rug because of how great he's been playing and how the team was also able to pick him up. That team was also able to step up and kind of have Bo Nix's back in that game and still come away with the victory. Where the opposite has been true about Caleb Williams. Not only whether it be drive to drive or just a game as a whole. They picked him up in that very first game when he didn't play well and they still beat the Titans. But that was week 1. And it's like that was already like no one even remembers what even actually happened in that game. You know, it may as well have been a college game at this point, 2 years ago. That's how little a game like that really matters. But, and I talked about this, the last game against the Vikings was an example of how this team consistently has not put Caleb in a position to succeed, and Caleb has not done himself much favors. But you still see some great moments from him. You see him make some beautiful throws, really high-level throws that Troy Aikman even will point out and say, you can't throw that ball any better. Great decision, great throw, great everything, but then it gets dropped. Actually are farther back than what you would have been if you just let it drop. And now you're celebrating when you actually hurt your team. Rocked from the blind side. Absolutely demolished. Where if this was 1994, I don't know if Caleb Williams is playing for the rest of the season, because I'm pretty sure they'd be still trying to find his head. I mean, just absolutely rocked. Rocked. And then there's times that Caleb is missing his own receiver. He's throwing bad balls. So you get a little bit of everything, but because you lose, because of the drop passes, because of the lack of protection, because of the inconsistent run game, because of the culture being poor, the coaching being poor, everything just bubbles to the top. That's why I use a snow globe analogy, because like you don't really notice anything's there until you shake it, and then you're like, "Whoa, all that stuff is there?" And that's what this becomes. And again, I actually think it will be good. I think he will be better because of it. No other way to put it. It was wild. And I worked in an incredibly rural and poor, borderline dilapidated rehab facility. It was all the people whose lives were truly being ruined, just the demographic of people that nobody wants to acknowledge even. And just like hardened criminals, like just wild. And everybody was overworked, underpaid, stressed. It was poorly managed, poorly organization, a lot of corner cutting. Because again, you're talking about a poor facility. Technically, not even everything was, on the up and up, just because like you couldn't afford it. Because if you did, then the facility would have to close down. Like it's just a broken system. Honestly, it's a broken system more than anything. And because of how bad that experience was, trajectory for being a therapist. But the reality is that if I ever went back to be a therapist now, if I ever wanted to go back and be, work at a men's inpatient rehab, significantly better. It wouldn't course in lessons of just insanity, failure after failure after failure, like just some highs, some of the most obnoxious lows. I made some awful mistakes. I made some awesome decisions as well. Like I just got everything in that moment. I experienced literally everything. I got like 100 years worth of experience all concentrated And if I ever went to now a facility that was actually well run, it would be like, oh my God, I can thrive in this. I can succeed in this. And I would be grateful for it. And I would understand, and I would be able to just know what's wrong. It's the same thing if you're in a relationship. If you've ever been in a dysfunctional relationship, unfortunately, I was along with while working at that rehab. So it was really the time of my life. And it was just such a dysfunctional, there's other words I'll say, but I won't say it but just really bad. And it wasn't until I got out of it that I realized what a healthy relationship can look like. And now it's like I use that old relationship as a frame of reference of all the things that I don't want. And it gives me nothing but gratitude when I meet people, right? You got the green flags and red flags. I am a master at recognizing red flags. And when I see green flags, it's like true gratitude. It's like tears in your eyes, like, oh my God, this is what this can be. This is actually what's possible. Like that is at the very least, that is the benefit that Caleb gets from this just insane experience of a rookie year. Because I think there's certain things that you then take for granted when you look at Brock Purdy. And I've defended Brock Purdy, but his first 2 years were golden. I mean, he had to step up and play great, but he also was obviously in a great situation with great players and great coaching and great culture, and they're winning. So everything's all good. And it's kind of like, yeah, man, this is what we do. You hear this with a lot of players who enter the league. They really, no matter how many times you see every single player get humbled, whether it's Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Manning, whoever, for whatever reason, they all enter the league thinking that they're going to be different. They're going to be unstoppable. Yeah, I know Patrick Mahomes has still lost. I know Tom Brady has lost, but not me. I'm going to shock the world. I'm going to be different. But Mahomes had to sit for a year. I'm better than Mahomes. And they all believe it to their core. They all believe it. And I know it was tongue-in-cheek when Caleb, sent that message to the punter saying, hey, we're not going to punt that much. But it was built off of a belief of what he thought he was going to achieve. And you absolutely need to be humbled. And I talked about that before Caleb played a single game. I said it's really important. Actually, it's going to be better for him to face adversity early on and get punched in the face because you have to. You have to be able to learn how to deal with that doubt. You have to be able to look in the mirror and tell yourself over and over again that you don't belong, that you're not a good quarterback, that you shouldn't have been drafted over one, that it should have been Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels and not me. You have to be able to look in the mirror and face those demons and face that inner monologue so you can be like, no, enough. That's nonsense. That's not true. You got to be able to learn how to dance with that devil. Everybody does, because whether it's coming in day 1 or day 365, it's going to arrive sooner or later. Like I said, I promise you, someone like Mahomes still has doubt. Tom Brady's accomplished so much, and I guarantee you, he was like, I don't know, can I be a commentator? It's human nature. And these high-level athletes recognize, they understand it. They're more in touch with that inner dialogue, that inner monologue, that inner voice, better than anyone. They know the doubt. And Corson. And I think it will pay dividends. It will be huge. If they can just right this ship and actually have a smart, supportive culture, it is all good. And I think he will be significantly better. I think Caleb Williams has already showed us at the bare minimum, he's clearly one of 32 starting quarterbacks. He hasn't proven that he's a top 10, top 5. He's shown us some of that potential, and we've seen moments where we're like, that with these circumstances, I think goes a long way. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears? How do you think this season will impact his development? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.